Hey everyone, I'm back, and today we're going to be talking about the Twilight Saga, Breaking Dawn Part 1. And this movie came out in 2011, and it is the fourth Twilight movie, depending on whether or not you consider Part 1 and Part 2 two separate movies or all one movie. I consider them two. And this is just the wedding that the series has, I guess, kind of been building up to, and I thought this one was the most entertaining Twilight movie, probably because it's the shortest and it has the most hilarious stuff that I enjoyed in it. And I just find this movie so entertaining, and never once was I completely checked out. I was always into it. I always was fascinated by what I was being shown. This movie always flew by for me. The acting in this movie isn't good, and there's plenty of moments where I just don't buy any of these actors as their characters, mostly because I don't like their characters, but also they don't really feel like people. They feel like ideas for characters, and this is just what we're given. It's just these ideas for what these characters would do, but they don't really develop them all that much, and it makes everything feel more flat and, I would say, dull and boring, but after this movie, this one, it made it hilarious, and there's basically three things that happen in the entire movie. One, we get a wedding. Two, we get Bella pregnant, and I'm not going to say the third thing because I don't want to spoil anything, because the third thing is like, it takes place in the last act of the movie, and that is fantastic for me. I was so into this movie once we got to the ending. It was great. I loved it. It was so funny. And out of all of the Twilight movies, I think this would probably not only be my favorite, but also the one I would revisit. I'm not even kidding. I found it to be that entertaining for me. I was not a fan of the music choices, and the soundtrack was just a bunch of songs that were popular at the time, and none of it really worked for me, and it wasn't used in a way that made me feel like, oh, it's a nice time capsule. It just feels like a movie that was trying to capitalize off of things that were popular at the time in a way that feels very artificial and more like a business decision than anything else, less of an artistic choice, and there's pretty much none of that here. And this movie also goes through everything so slow, and honestly, you could have combined Part 1 and Part 2 for both of the Breaking Dawn movies, and I think it would have been a bit better, honestly, in terms of the story, because you really wouldn't be losing anything, because nothing is properly developed. Anything that could be interesting is handled at such poor timing, and it just wastes its time on a bunch of stupid nonsense that doesn't need to be in the movie. And as per usual, I'm never impressed with the action sequences in this series. And this one is no exception. The action was weightless, and I didn't feel anything, and any intentional emotions that I should be feeling, I just never felt that. And the movie was incredibly cheesy, and it took some directions that were different from the rest of the series. Like, at this point, we can kind of understand what the wolves are talking in this movie when they're in their dog form or whatever you want to call that. And the special effects in this movie are not great. And there's a CGI baby in this movie, and it never looks convincing. And I know that the dog's talking, and like we as an audience understanding everything that they're saying in dog form or whatever, like, sure, that's a small thing, but it is still weird that they decided to do that out of nowhere after doing like 3 movies in a row without doing that. Like in New Moon and Eclipse, they didn't do that, and all of a sudden they just start talking all of a sudden, and everything that they're saying, it's not super important at all. It's like, we didn't really need to hear any of this. but they decided to just have that in the movie because why not? And that's about all I have to say about Breaking Dawn Part 1. It's bad, but it's pretty funny in ways that it doesn't try to be funny, and there's lots of great moments in this movie, and whenever this movie tries to have drama in it, it's really funny, and all the scenes where Bella is pregnant and her trying to like hide it, and there's lots of stuff like that that I just find to be absolutely hilarious, and there's some like really weird creative decisions, and characters are really stupid, and there's some really bad dialogue, and all of that is great. This movie never once failed when it came to entertainment, but everything else it kind of did, but I would watch this one again. It was funny. And with all that being said, I'm going to give The Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn Part 1 a 3 out of 10. Thank you for watching my videos as always. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a like and comment down below you thought Breaking Dawn Part 1, and my social media links, they will all be in the description, so follow me there. And last but not least, subscribe to be a part of Foley Nation, and I'll see you when I get my next review up, and I didn't really put much thought into it, it's part 2. So look forward to that, but until I get that up, thank you for watching, and have a great day.